First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and we are here every weekday starting at 1 o'clock. We go throughout the afternoon. We cover a wide range of topics here on this show, so thanks for joining us. I do want to talk about this. So right now, we're covering an annual report that details some of the things and concerns that people should have with new toys. Every year, there's a new batch of toys that comes out. Every year, it changes up, and it's important to stay on top of knowing, what some of the concerns are, what some possible dangers are, and that's what the Trouble in Toyland report has done for 40 years. So we're going to talk about the report itself and then get into some details about some of these different toys and different things that are out there that you should be aware of, including the further utilization of AI and chatbots in toys. What to know about that? We're going to cover all of that, but we've got two experts who are joining us here right now. We've got RJ and Teresa, and thank you very much to both of you for being here. I wanted to start off, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of giving an overall picture of both the organization that you're a part of and this report, 40 years of this report being out there, and just what that is. And I don't know, Teresa, did you want to start with that and just kind of give us that overview?
Sure. Well, Public Interest Research Group, we are an advocacy organization. We look out for people's health, safety, and financial well-being. And everything that we work on is in the public interest. And Trouble in Toyland, again, this is 40 years that we've been doing this. And obviously, toys have changed quite a bit since the mid-1980s. And thankfully, a lot of the problems that we used to see with toys in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, those problems don't exist quite as much anymore, but they do exist. And, a lot of the dangers that we see now are actually kind of hidden dangers. So we looked a lot this year at like toxics in toys and then AI, which you mentioned. And then we also looked at some of the newer laws and rules that have taken effect the last few years involving button batteries and high-powered magnets, and then the new rule that's taking place that's starting soon on water beads.
I would imagine over the 40 years, I always think of the classic one that everybody references with lawn darts, like that as being a clearly dangerous toy from what I've seen of that. But seeing some of this now, over the years with those regulations, so seeing some more hidden dangers, which is really important, almost more important, I feel like, because it's just not as obvious. So going into that, I don't know where we want to start here, but you mentioned something about water beads, which I saw that listed in the report. I'll be honest, I don't know what that is. Would you mind maybe starting off with that and letting us know what that is exactly?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked. So water beads have actually been around for a couple of decades. In our research, we were surprised that there were even recalls with water beads back like 20 years ago. But water beads are these little, well, I'm going to hold them up, but these little things, they start out like the size of a pea. And then when you put them in water, then they expand. And they expand to the size of, if I can do it without dropping it here, like, where's my camera? There we go. Like a golf ball. Let me do this. Okay, so like this. And as you can see, I actually have a golf ball here. So you can see it's almost the size of a golf ball. So what happens is a lot of times parents will put a tub of these, a whole bunch of these, dozens of these beads in a tub, in a bucket, in a whatever, and then they're oftentimes used for sensory toys, and they're kind of squishy, they're kind of like hard jello, so they're kind of fun, and that's great. But if you drop one of these little guys, the little thing, it looks like candy. And so if a child or a pet finds one of these, it looks like gum or candy. And if they swallow it, it mixes with the internal fluids. So it could be saliva, it could be fluids in your intestines. And guess what happens? This thing gets lodged in a kid's throat, and it can choke a child. It can cause a child to suffocate. It can go down into their intestinal tract and cause an intestinal blockage. All kinds of bad things. Thousands and thousands of children have had to be treated in emergency rooms, including with surgery. And it's an awful thing. And so for the first time, the Consumer Product Safety Commission just in August approved new rules restricting water beads that are marketed as toys, so that hopefully we don't see the kinds of injuries that we've been seeing for the last several years.
Those are horrifying. I mean, I'm just picturing like my dog. I mean, quite frankly, because I don't have a kid, but I mean, that seems like that's such an easy accident to happen with something like that. So thankfully, that's not being marketed as that. But yeah, definitely something to watch out for and be
Yeah,
concerned with.
you put that in the category of like, what were they thinking?
Yeah,
What did they think was going to happen?
I don't see any benefit to that. Okay, so that's good to be aware of that one and make sure that that people know on what's going on there. What are some other big ones here before we get to the AI side of things? Some other big ones that we should know about.
Sure. Well, one of the other things that we focused on a lot, I mentioned toxics in toys. So, there were quite a few laws that were passed. One was in 2008, one was in 2017, really restricting the use of like phthalates and lead in toys. So a lot of toys that I played with as a child, anything from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, before 2008, oftentimes contained all kinds of nasty things. And Congress passed a law in 2008, the Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act, that restricted a lot of the lead and the phthalates. And then the Consumer Product Safety Commission also put even more phthalates on the banned list. And these are basically toxins that can cause all kinds of neurological problems for kids, brain damage, development issues, thyroid, just all kinds of things, as you can imagine. I mean, we all know that lead is bad. And well, thankfully, there aren't as many toys now that contain these things. I mean, like phthalates used to be popular in like rubber ducks, bath toys, soft plastic books that a kid would play with, teething rings, if you can believe that. And then lead was pretty common in like jewelry and painted cars. And so we don't see that quite as much now because guess what? They're banned. But the problem is that when parents and gift givers buy products from overseas, a lot of countries don't have the same standards that the United States has. And if you're shopping online, you may not know where your thing is coming from. You may not know whether that company or that country cares as much about product safety as we do here in the United States. And so we spent a lot of time in our report trying to caution people to know where they're buying from, shop from reputable retailers and websites, because I mean, you see a product advertised like on social media, you don't even know where it's coming from. And so parents and gift givers really have to be diligent in knowing what they're buying and where it's coming from.
So be careful on that thing that pops up. You just click on it. You don't know where that is, what exactly that is, where it's coming from. Do some research on that before you make some purchase randomly online, essentially.
Yes.
Which makes sense. I'm sure everybody out there has had some kind of an experience of buying something online and it didn't turn out exactly to be what you wanted or what you thought it would be, and that's so much more important when you're dealing with something that could harm children like that. Anything else that you think is important in a general standpoint as far as just good tips and tricks that people should be paying attention to?
Well, yeah, just a couple things real quick. We mentioned we did a lot of research on some of the toys that are coming into the United States. Like toys get recalled every year, but not many, thankfully, and when they're found to be hazardous. But then we did a lot of analysis on something that's called notices of violation, and these are products that come into the ports, all kinds of products. So clothing, appliances, toys. And so we saw just shocking numbers of shipments of toys that were flagged by customs and by the Consumer Product Safety Commission because they were dangerous in many ways. It could be the toxics. It could be that they had small parts that could choke a child. They didn't have proper labeling, all kinds of things. And, the big thing that we talk about is a lot of people assume that because a toy or frankly anything else, they assume because it's for sale, it must be safe, right? Like it's for sale, so it must be fine. No, 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 no. That is not the case at all. I mean, we do have strict standards here in this country, but when things are coming in from other countries and you don't know what the company is, then a lot of problems could result. And the other thing that we really try to caution families about is the importance of, if you're in a family where you have kids of different ages, so if you have a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old, they're going to play with different toys. And it's really important for families to make sure to keep those dangerous toys, the toys with small parts, away from those little ones.
So all good advice there on what people should be paying attention to and watching out for when it comes to that. Now, RJ, something else that Something else we've seen, certainly the advent of in a lot of different ways, is the utilization of AI in a number of different products, but this is also being utilized in toys. So what should people really know about that?
Yeah, so this is really, we've looked at smart toys off and on in the Per Trouble in Toyland report since 2017 was the first time we really started looking
Is it
at
okay
these
if I mute you?
dolls.
Sorry, I'll silence that.
That's Miko. That's one of the robots we tested. So that's footage from our own testing. So right now, the smart toy market has totally changed. We used to have toys that had these built-in microphones and they connected to Wi-Fi and they would deliver these scripted lines that a writer had written that allows this toy to have a conversation with a kid. We're just seeing the birth of a new market that takes the generative AI chatbots like ChatGPT that are out there for adults to use, and we stick them inside of a teddy bear or a robot, and then it allows them to have much more lifelike conversations with kids than any of the smart toys that we've seen before. And these guys have a few problems. We bought 4 and we tested them. And one of the big things I'll flag about them is that they're very unpredictable. Because again, when they talk to you, they're not delivering lines that have been vetted and scripted. The generative AI chatbot that's inside of the toy is coming up with a response on the fly. And so you're never quite sure what it's going to say. And a lot of times you'll find it will not give you the same answer twice. So they are new. We're going to see a lot more of them in the marketplace soon to come. Earlier this year, Mattel, which is one of the biggest toy companies in the world, announced a partnership with OpenAI, which is one of the tech company behind the biggest chatbot in the world right now, ChatGPT. So expect to see a lot more of these conversational AI toys that are hitting the market in the next few years.
So yeah, unpredictability, I think, being one of those big things there. So for a parent out there, what are the key things they should think about and watch out for if they want to get their child one of these newer smart toys?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we found a lot of reasons to think carefully before bringing one of these home. But I will say there's a few things you can look at. So the thing about these AI toys that have conversations with you is that they're listening. They listen to you. And they're recording your voice, and then they send that recording to a chatbot in order for it to decide what to say back. And so these come with obvious privacy concerns because whenever a toy is listening and recording you, that data is going somewhere, and companies can't get this data. And when you have a conversational toy that a child views as a friend, they're going to be much more likely to divulge personal information to that toy that they maybe wouldn't to another one. And that's how these toys market themselves. They're your buddy, your friend, your companion. And so one thing you can do is there's different types of listening mechanisms that these toys use. We bought some and tested them. So here's Miko. I don't know if everyone else can see him on screen. This one has a wake word, kind of like Alexa or Hey Siri. You say, hello, Miko, and then it triggers its recording function. It's going to listen to you. And that is safer than one of the other toys we looked at, which was Curio's Grok, which is listening to you. If it's on, it's listening to everything in its vicinity. And even when we were first testing it out, caught me by surprise. I was having a conversation with another researcher about how the branding on different robots confusing, and it chimed in from like 10 feet behind me and said, wow, what a mystery. Like maybe we could name the robot together. And so these things are pretty unpredictable. So you can look at how does the toy listen? How does it know when it should be listening? The safest is actually a push to talk mechanism, which is like a walkie-talkie. You push and hold a button down, and that's the only point at which it's listening to you. That gives you the most control over when it's recording and when it's not.
So yeah, paying attention to that and seeing if it has those kinds of options on there then, so it's not constantly listening to everything that you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend highly.
Which makes perfect sense. Just the idea of that, I mean, I feel like there's a movie that's probably already made out there of something associated with this. But paying attention to how much that technology is listening and recording and everything. Anything else that you think is important for people to know?
So one of the biggest tips that I would give you, well, there's lots of things I'd like to know, but one of the biggest tips is that if you're thinking about buying one of these toys for your kid, buy it, understand the refund policy, and get it with enough lead time that you can actually set it up yourself and test it and make sure it actually works the way you think it works. You may find that you get it and you start using it and you're like, whoa, this is not really what I thought I was going to be bringing into my home, and I don't actually think I want to give this to my child. You'll be surprised how much interacting with those toys is different than what they say they'll do on the website. That was definitely true for me. So I do recommend parents get that toy, get it set up, manage to get somewhere away from your kid where they're going to know, and spend about an hour messing with it. We recommend an hour because in our testing, we found that toys are, they're really good for like the first 15 minutes. But one of the toys we tested in longer interactions, its guardrails would start to break down, and it was more likely to start having inappropriate conversations with children, which is one of the problems with these pieces of chatbot technology in general, that when they have longer conversations, those rules about what they are and are not allowed to say will start to break down. So that's why we recommend parents should spend some time with the toy before giving it to their kids.
That seems like a really, really good idea. Well, for everybody out there too who's following along with this and what's, may need to learn more about what's safe to buy, what's not, what they should know. I mean, what's the best way for them to follow along with all of this research that you've done?
That's a good question. I actually would love to back up and say one other thing about
Sure. Yeah.
kind of the risks of these toys that is really important, is that so we found a lot of immediate harms in our testing. We had toys that would tell us how to access potentially dangerous household items, like where to find plastic bags, matches, or knives. One toy in particular, a stuffed teddy bear, gave us step-by-step instructions for how to light a match. So that's one type of inappropriate content that we're watching out for. But another big one we had, by far the biggest surprise in all of our testing, was an AI-powered teddy bear that engaged in very sexually explicit conversations with us. So explicit that I can't even repeat what it said here. You wouldn't be able to air it. So we did write up some more about that in our report, but we also couldn't even publish everything that bear said there. So these things have a lot. There it is. Yep, that's Kuma, the teddy bear. It looks so innocent, and it's like the cutest teddy bear you've ever seen. But we found it had the weakest guardrails. And if you asked it like a sex-related question right out of the box, it would say, "Oh no, I don't know anything about that." But we had 10 minutes of conversation with it first about a kids' TV show, and then asked it a sex-related question, and it was totally happy to go in that direction. So again, that's that unpredictability over time. The longer interaction you have with a toy, the more unpredictable it's going to get.
That's because of that generative learning. So really, those guardrails aren't real. They're more like recommendations that it has, and then those things are just gone.
Yeah, especially that particular toy, the teddy bear, which is from the company Folo Toy. We found you could say those guardrails were recommendations that the teddy bear chose to forgot later on in the conversation.
Jeez. Wow. This is all great information for everybody out there just to be aware of and know. And so, yeah, you talked about the research, and just to go back to that, for people to follow up with everything that you've found, and this report, what's the best way for them to do that?
Teresa, you want to tell them how to find our stuff?
Sure. Well, we have all of our shopping tips, toy safety tips, everything about traditional toys, toys for little kids, toys for big kids, AI toys at toysafetytips.org. So toysafetytips.org. And we keep that updated. I mean, we've had that for years and years, but we keep on updating the content as toys evolve.
All right. Well, RJ and Teresa, thank you so much, for joining us here today to talk about this and to go through some of these things. I certainly learned something myself, and all very important information for everybody out there. So thanks so much for being here on Fox 12 Now with us.
Thanks for having us.
And for everybody watching again, this is Fox 12 Now. We're live streaming here. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here shortly. I recommend downloading the Fox 12 Oregon apps. A great way to watch us live and follow along with everything that we're doing. But however you found us, thanks for doing so. Feel free to share this segment. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.